I'm back. I'm back to Canada. The Balkan tour of peace and reconciliation has concluded successfully. We survived. That's all I can say. Cheers. I just woke up. It's Friday morning and it's the end of December, that space between Christmas and New Year when nothing really happens. It's so quiet, kids are asleep. I'm in bed having coffee, looking out the window. It's kind of gray, it's -5, but it's a good day to go out for a walk. I'm so grateful I can walk. I'm so grateful for this day off. I'm slowly, going through the memories of the trip. I wanted to post so much more, but it was really difficult, because you can either live or you can write about it. I think one of the reasons why I haven't written the book or books of my life yet is because I'm just too busy living my life. There's so many things to do, so many things to see, so many people to talk in order for me to kind of like slow down and write about it. So the best I can do is just post these videos here and there. I really don't know how to package this whole experience that is my life into some kind of meaningful, pattern or something like that. I had a coaching session earlier with a friend of mine who was advising me how to organize these things, and even though she had great ideas, I failed miserably at implementing them. So I'm still going on with my ramblings. I try to organize my YouTube channel through like different podcasts or different playlists. This is my life, this is my opinions, this is my music, this is my comedy. But I realize that it's all just one big thing, Whether I'm talking about my divorce or I'm talking about my childhood, or I'm talking about my music, I'm essentially talking about the same thing. It all kind of boils down to one big experience of me. What I realized through this beautiful tour of the Balkans is that I am more than just me. That essentially this whole universe shares just one soul. And that we experience this life in different bodies, in different time zones, through different experiences. Some of them are positive, some of them are negative. But we are all connected into one big collective soul, and that we are more connected than we are divided. Time is also an illusion. It's been about 30 years since my last visit to, let's say, Croatia or Serbia. But nevertheless, when I showed up there, I felt like nothing really changed except for the buildings. You can see that technology has progressed, that there are physical changes on the planet of the earth. But within us, within people, there's no changes. My friends look older, but they were exactly the same souls that I met ages ago or many lifetimes ago. And I was truly, truly, truly blessed to have experienced such hospitality, such true, genuine love that I can only bear a witness to these miracles. So this morning, when I woke up, made myself some coffee, and I want to go back to sleep again because I was tired and a little bit sick. But this story came back to me. Uh, I call this story The Spoon. And it's connected to my first childhood home, of which I made a video in this tour of peace and reconciliation. And I think the video is called My First Home. Um, my family lived in this house at the suburbs of my hometown Konjic in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And the house was built by two friends or two brothers, half and half. So one man had half a home and the other man had the other half. So the man who had the right side of the home rented the basement apartment to my family, or the basement room, and the upstairs room he rented to another family, to a man whose name is Selim. I met Selim again while I was in Bosnia. It was so nice. Um, the reason why I remember Selim is because every time my father used to want to beat me for, doing something wrong, obviously, like, punishment was always like a belt or some kind of stick. But I would say, look, if you beat me, I'm going to start yelling, our neighbor's name, and then you're going to be embarrassed. Because everything in our home was always like, okay, listen, what will the neighbors say? Watch for this, what for that. So being embarrassed in front of the neighbors was the worst thing that can happen to you. So as soon as my father would get angry and he would want to like beat the crap out of me, I would start yelling, Selim, 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 my father wants to beat me. And he would be so embarrassed that he would stop, doing that. That worked sometimes, but not always, and I was just like every other child, naughty. And now I realize that, that is not the best way to raise children because I have my own. But hey, progress takes time, We learn from our own mistakes. Excuse me. Cheers. Nevertheless, the other half of the home belonged to my neighbor, or late Byro and Kada. So the house, or was kind of, there was one wall through the middle of the house that divided us. And Byron and Kada were on one side of the wall, and my family was on the other side of the wall. And our kitchens and living room were connected with that wall. My parents usually worked in shifts, so they usually worked daytime from 7 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Then they would come home, we would have lunch, they would bring me back home from the kindergarten, and then around 4 or 5 o'clock it would be kind of the end of the day, really. What else can you do, really? It's work is finished, lunch is finished, you can hang out a little bit longer, maybe watch a movie and go to sleep. There's no scrolling TikTok or Facebook at 2 o'clock in the morning. You go to bed early, you wake up early. So usually around that 4 or 5, it was kind of like a dead hour. Nothing was happening. You're just hanging out. And then what would happen? You would hear this knock. Just 3 times like this, And it was a knock produced by a spoon. So we would take this metal spoon, turn it around, and just go knock, knock, knock on the wall. And that was a call to come over and have some coffee. It was the most exciting sound that you would hear in the afternoon when there's nothing going on, especially in those winter days or nights. In the summer, you can always go out, for a walk, do something. But in the winter, you're just at home like this now. It's cold outside. You really don't want to do anything. So when you hear this sound, you're like, okay, good. So we would get dressed, of course. Maybe, prepare something, maybe, if we had some cookies to bring with us or whatever, some fruit, a couple of bananas, we would bring with us to kind of share with our neighbors. But usually we would just come over. We would have to go outside, and there was a small kind of like fence between the two homes. Sometimes I would jump over the fence, but my parents would say, "Come on, no, don't jump over the fence. Use the stairs like all normal people would do, would use, you know." But as a kid, it was more interesting to jump the fence than to use the stairs. So yes, we would go over, and Kada, a typical, Bosnian housewife, would have prepared coffee, some juice, some cookies, and it was like, man, the best thing ever to a 5-year-old kid, spending some time with adults while they're, having conversations about their days. How was your day? How was your day? What did you do? What did you do? My wife, wow, that was a Freudian slip. My mother and Kada would talk about, whatever they were cooking for the day or something like that, I guess. And the men would sometimes have their own conversations. It was important that, there would be a woman to woman talk, man to man talk, and then also back and forth. It's basically to check on each other, to see how are you doing? Is everything okay at home? Are you bored? Are you sick? Are you something? Sometimes it takes somebody else to open up, you know, your own kind of doors too, so you can express whatever it is that is bothering you. Sometimes two people spend all their time together, but they really don't have like a way to open up. So when they go with somebody else, then they start opening up and they start talking. So there, through jest, through joking and whatnot, they end up expressing so much that's on their mind. My mother would sometimes say, "Oh, everything is great, but my husband never takes me out, to a nice place for some kind of meal or something." And my father would be like, "Wow, why didn't you tell me that? Of course, let's do this next Friday or something like that. Let's go out, do something. And Eldin can stay with Byron, Kada." And I was like, yes, man, I would love to stay with my neighbors. Like I said, they always would have some kind of cookies or cakes. I loved going over, and they would make some traditional food that my parents would make. So that was always an extra bonus for me. And that's what we did, and one of the greatest or the most honorable, things that I could do was invite them over. So some days, I would kind of ask my parents, "Can I use the spoon?" And they would kind of like, "Okay, let's wait a couple of minutes to see." And then they would like, after like a short debate, they would say like, "Okay, use the spoon." And then I would take that big metal spoon, go to the wall, like feeling like I'm summoning the army to the war, or I am the most important person in the world at that time. I would take that spoon and just go like knock, 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 3 times on the wall. Not four, not five, but just like knock, 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 and that would be a sign for them to come over. So usually they would knock back to say, yes, we're coming over, or something like that. There was an intricate kind of like call and call back to indicate whether they can come over or they cannot come over. And they would come over and see, what we are doing. We would talk to them and ask them how they are doing and things like that, just simple things. Basically, it was a way to go visit somebody else, to go enter somebody's most intimate, most private space that they share only with themselves and their family, their loved ones. You would become almost a doctor, a social worker, a police, a friend, basically, who would be given an access to absolutely everything. Because when they would come over, they would look around and they would see our laundry, our spices, the food, whether we had food or not. They would know, my God, they have no fruit, or they have their fridge is empty, their cupboards are empty, you know. So next time they would come over, they would actually bring whatever it is that we were missing at the time, and we would do the same. Um, it meant to show that we are human, that there is no shame in this experience, that we are all in this together, that we share one soul in different bodies, that if your neighbor is hurting, you are hurting too, that there is no division, that we are connected by everything. We had no psychologists and psychiatrists growing up. We had neighbors. They knew everything about us, you know. The joke was, you know, when you go meet a neighbor, you don't ask them, how are you? You ask them, how am I? Because they will tell you everything about you. They know everything about your life. The moment we started hiding, you know, from our neighbors is the moment we started hiding from ourselves. And don't get me wrong, you know, we all want to have our own privacy because that's, I guess, important. But in the end, what happens is the privacy that we get becomes our own prison. You know, here in my own private room, I can do whatever I want, and really I'm doing nothing. Just having coffee and making videos. Waiting for my kids to wake up so we can go for a little walk, have some food together or something like that. And I'm waiting for that knock, knock, knock. I think we are all waiting for that knock, knock, knock. This tour of the Balkans showed me exactly that. I would basically show up anywhere. Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, Serbia, Vojvodina. I would show up at people's homes and they would just say, yes, come on in. Here's a place to sleep. Here's food. Let's talk. It was amazing. I was flabbergasted to go in and see this hospitality, see my friends reflecting myself back to me and saying, we love you, you're a good person. I mean, within limits. No, but none of us are perfect, none of us. But they trusted me enough to let me into their home and, you know, give this back to them, because I reflected their existence back to them. I said, wow, yes, you've made it. You have a home, you have a lovely family, you have food on the table, you're good. And they did the same back to me. We checked in on each other and we went back our own separate ways. That's exactly it. That spoon, knock, knock, knock. You know, I guess you can't really, you know, show up unannounced. And back in the day, we didn't have like Facebook messengers and phones and whatnot. So we would just use this spoon. I remember a joke about, you know, two Bosnians living next to each other, and this guy's yelling, hey, are you home? Yes, I am home. Okay, I'll call you on the phone now. That was when they just got the phones, you know, and yeah, that's what it is. I mean, seriously, in the end, don't be shy, man. Don't be embarrassed. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's no shame in our lives. There's no shame in being who we are and what we are. You know, I learned this and I had to remind myself again, you know. So this tour of the Balkans definitely helped me. It gave me this identity back. I met myself again. I realized, my God, it is totally okay to be you, because I am you and you are me, we are one soul, sharing this experience in different bodies. Yeah, so that's it. Take that spoon and knock, 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 and see who comes over. Check in with your friends, check in with yourselves, and we'll go from there. I love you all, and I will see you, I guess, in the next video to be continued. God knows what the next video is going to be about, but this one is called The Spoon. Love you all.